Okay, so in this module, I'm going to go over billing and tell you the two types of lawns that you will encounter, which are going to be suburban lawn and an urban lawn. And just to set the record right off the bat, I am not going to cover commercial lawns or rural farmland. These are outside of my scope of this course, and I really don't have any experience in doing commercial lawns or rural farms, but I'm going to show you a suburban lawn and a urban lawn. So we'll do an urban lawn first. Typically, the characteristics of an urban lawn is that it's closer to major downtown cities or the capital city. It's more heavily populated. The urban lot will be in more of a single line fashion, forming the houses in rows next to each other, very close to the next house. The lots are smaller. So that will be an indication of an urban lawn. So I took 3 samples of urban lawns in my city, and I really feel, and plus these are lawns that I've dealt with myself, and this gives a really, really good average of an urban lawn. So I'm going to go in detail of what these numbers mean. So an urban lawn, we have the length of a lawn is average going to be 160 feet. We have the width of the lot or the lawn is going to be 140, it's going to be 40 feet. So with that together, but we're going to have to minus a few items. We're going to have to minus an average house. The foundation size of the house is going to be an average size of 700 square feet. We're going to have to minus the garage, an average size of a single stall of 200 square feet. And I did a minus of 100 square feet for sidewalks and possibly any trees around this urban lawn. So with that in mind, you're going to have a cutting surface area of about 3,500 to 5,000 square feet of cutting space. And this is about the price that is roughly going around for an urban lawn. So this is what you'll see in urban lawn. Now, a suburban lawn, the characteristics of a suburban lawn is that it's generally further away from the downtown capital cities. It's out in a less populated area or cities. The lots are bigger, the houses are bigger. Sometimes the houses are situated in weaving streets, weaving roads. They're not going to be all straight single line files like in an urban lawn. A lot of the times the houses is attached to the garage, and it's sometimes wider as compared to longer than the urban lawn. Okay, so again, I took an average of 3 really good sampling sizes of my city in suburban cities, and this is what I came up with. So you're going to have the length of the suburban lawn about roughly 150 feet. You're going to have the width of the suburban lawn 80 feet, so it's much bigger already. You have to minus the house. The foundation of the house is 100 square feet on average, attached to a double, sometimes even triple garage stall, which is 700 square feet. Minus, I did 1,000 square feet. Sometimes these driveways can be quite big. And take into consideration there could be trees and playground areas and garden beds all here. But I did a rough estimate of 8,000 to 9,500 square feet of lawn cutting surface. And this is about how much would be the going rate for a suburban lawn. So I hope that really gives you an idea of the 2 lawns that you will most likely encounter, a suburban lawn and an urban lawn. The areas that you would consider what to cut, what not to cut, the square footage size of lawn cutting surface, and the price as well. I hope this helps. And this should really help you going forward on what to expect when you see your lawn, possibly what to charge, engage from these two types of lawns. All right, we are really getting to the magic part of this entire course. So it looks like a lot of stuff, but don't worry, I'm going to walk you through this. This talks about some methods on how to get paid in my preferred method. Okay, so again, lots of boxes, lots of arrows, but have no fear, it will all make sense. So in principle, what am I trying to tell you is that you have a service, you have provided a service to a person, they like your service, and in turn, they will pay you. Okay, so that's all that is going on up here. You know how to cut lawn, trim, and leaf blow very well. You communicate well, you're very consistent, and your client, your potential client, now turned client, will pay you for those services. So, what is the best way to get paid? So here is method one. I'm going to cover it just so that so it's not so distracting. Method one is getting paid on every single time you cut. These brown boxes represent every time you cut. I do 10 just for demonstration purposes. Where I live, there are about 20 to 22 weeks of cutting season, all the way from the beginning of May to the end of September. And you're going to have to know how long is your lawn cutting season. If you're up in Minnesota where I live, it's about roughly 20 to 22 weeks. If you're in Texas, it could be all year long. It could be much more weeks of cutting. So a way to get paid is every time you cut, you'll get paid this amount. Next week you come, or if they come bi-weekly, but every time you cut, you get paid again. Every time you cut, you get paid again. Every time you cut, you have to notify them, knock on the door, call them, they write you a check every single time, okay? I personally do not like this method because there's lots of times you'll have to meet with a client. And quite frankly, a lot of times they don't want to be bothered. They just want to say it's a one and done. Can I just pay you in full? Or they may be out of town, or they may not be available. Maybe they are out of cash. They have to give you a check. All these are points of friction that both you and both the client may not really like. Okay, so method one is called every cut, and I personally don't like this method. This is method two, is the opposite. You pay in full. So you've demonstrated, you talk to your potential clients, you perhaps offer the free cut, or they give you you were a referral from someone they trust, they like you already. You tell them that you're able to cut for the whole season, cut, trim, blow, you're good with communication, you give a fair price. And the second method is that they pay everything at the beginning of the season. So for instance, where I live in Minnesota, they'll pay the entire amount in the month of May. So it's up to me under my obligation to cut every time all the way to the end. This method is okay. It's okay in that it's good for you, the lawn service provider, because you get paid in full. The client may or may not like this. If they trust you, if everything is good, they may pay you all in full at the beginning. But a client who they may want more options, because if they have to pay in full, there's a lot of risk on their part. They may have a fear that's saying, wait, what if this person cuts really good at first, but then after a while you become flaky, don't follow through, or you're out of town, you don't cut all the way through, and they may need to get some of their money back. Okay, so there's a lot of risk on them. And it's important to see it through your clients' eyes as well. A lot of times when we are a consumer and we get a service or a product, we like options, we like variety, or a surety that we are going to get what we have been promised, what we paid for. Okay, so method two is okay if there's a lot of trust, if there's a lot of trust from the client to you. Okay. Now method three is my preferred method. So I'm going to cover up here. Method 3 is a hybrid of, so method 3 is a hybrid of the first and the second. Is that you is to charge 2 times for the whole season. So here are 10 times I'll cut. I will charge the first 5 cuts at the beginning of the season. And then about the halfway mark of the lawn cutting season, I'll tell my client again, hey, love cutting your lawn. Can you believe it? It's half of the season already. And here is the invoice for the rest of the here is an invoice for the rest of the season to cut your lawn until the end of summer. So why is this good? It's good because you get paid for all the service that you've done. There's a more of a variety of option. The risk is less on the client. They feel like they don't have to pay the entire amount. They could pay half. And if you remind them again, they'll pay the other half. And this is where it gets kind of funny, but it really helps in both situations, okay? This summer, for example, it has been unusually intensely dry. So there's been once or twice where I did not cut this first half of the season. And I actually took off the prices of the future times I cut them to reduce the last half of the season. And my clients were really appreciative of that. They loved the honesty, and that's right. If I didn't cut them, then they really shouldn't be charged. So I carried that reimbursement over to the second half of the season, charging it less, and they really appreciated that. Now, a funny thing where this also could come in handy is if it also helps you, the lawn service provider. So let's say this is a brand new client, everything is fine and dandy the first half, but for whatever reason, maybe if the client has become unusually unpleasant to work with, it is a fair breakaway point to say, for business purposes, we're not going to cut the rest of the season and we're not going to charge you. There has been no transaction involved, and you can finish there. But of course, a lot of clients are pleasant and you won't have that issue. I just wanted to tell you this way where it could help you. Okay, so that was a lot to go over. To recap, you give a service, clients like it, they pay you. How do they pay you? Method 1, you can get paid each and every time you cut. This is not preferred because there's lots of friction times. You'll have to meet with them again. Have to meet with you. It's lots of points of contact. Method 2 is the client pays you everything in full at the beginning of the season. That is okay if the client really trusts you, if you guys have a long-standing relationship. It does give a lot of risk to the client in case you yourself do not follow through on any of the cuts. They will pursue getting their money back. The third option, which I personally do and prefer, is splitting up the lawn cutting into 2 parts, the first half and the second half, charging at the beginning and then charging at the middle. This makes the client happy. There's more options, and it makes you easy for you too, because you have gotten paid for this shorter amount of time, and during the middle of the season you have to remind them to get paid again for the second half of the season. Okay, so the last part of billing on how to charge them, which is charging them bi-weekly. So in the previous example, we were cutting every single week. But sometimes some clients, they don't want their lawn to be cut every week. They want it to be cut every other week. It gives them an option. It also helps reduce payments. You are getting charged for exactly the time that you're spending there, and it gives you more time to find other clients to fill in those gaps. So that is the second really crucial part of billing, is charging them bi-weekly instead of weekly. This will be covered much more in detail in the marketing module. So I hope this works out. I hope this is clear, knowing how you get paid. We're really getting down to marketing and getting paid. This is where it matters. So for today's homework, for this module's homework, I want you to grab paper, pen, and start drawing up ideas of what you would charge. Start drawing up ideas of how much you would have charged for the entire season weekly. Start charging, getting an idea of how much you would charge bi-weekly. Add those amounts, and then do the getting paid every single week. Do the getting paid all in one at the beginning of the season. Do the 2 installment payments. And I want you to be really comfortable, becoming confident, more confident in how to charge well, giving your clients options. They're happy and you get paid. And now you are ready for the next module.